Sit back and grow your Ringgit sense. This program is powered by Ringgit Plus.
Hello there, I'm Azaria Tagaya, and thank you for joining us today on Ringgit Sense Plus. Now, it's almost the end of the year, and we know many of you are probably planning to clear your annual leave or take your family somewhere for the school holiday break. In this episode, we are giving you some travel tips. And if you're traveling with kids, you may have some questions that need answering too as well. Now, you've probably heard this tip before. Buy your flight tickets and book your hotel rooms early for the best price. But then some airlines and hotels also offer last-minute deals that come at cheap prices as well. So should you buy your tickets earlier or closer to the travel date? Which is the better choice?
We sat down for a cup of coffee at One World Hotel with Nigel Wong, the Honorary Secretary General of the Malaysian Association of Tour and Travel Agents, to ask him for some travel tips. We wanted to know which was cheaper, buying flight tickets a few months earlier or waiting for last-minute deals.
There are certain carriers, depending on the destination you're going to, where if you buy the tickets earlier, the tickets are of course cheaper. Now, the travel trend is basically during the early part of the year, many families would have already planned their journeys for the next 9 months. And this is mostly families who are looking to travel further abroad or for slightly longer periods. Now, in that case, if you're traveling to destinations which are further away, say maybe to Europe, Australia, or any other part that's maybe more than 6 hours away, right? Then families should look at purchasing air tickets earlier to ensure that they get a good price. But in answer to your question, it's not necessarily true that prices will be much better at the beginning of the year than at the end, because at the end of the day, airlines, like any other business, have what we call allocation or seats or stock, if you will. So in many cases, towards the end of the year, you will still be able to find very, very affordable tickets. Sometimes you will find that different airlines will have special promotions where you can get tickets at an extremely unbelievable rate, and it could be the same even at the earlier part of the year. The major difference is this: you are likely to get a seat on the promotional price if you buy early rather than buying last minute. So you may get a very good ticket, say in September or in October, but there may be only very limited seats. So it's not guaranteed that you will get a seat at that special price.
For those of you who haven't made any bookings yet, there are still options available. Either travel in Malaysia or look for destinations within 6 hours of flight time.
There are still a lot of options for families, particularly if they are traveling locally, all right, or maybe to a nearby region within the ASEAN region, or even nearby countries like Australia, Japan, Taiwan, Macau, and so forth. So I suppose in terms of families, let's look at it from a domestic viewpoint. If you're traveling domestically, of course, cost-wise, it is much lower because most families here tend to travel on their own. Take a car, pack the kids into the back, and then you drive off to whatever takes your fancy, right? Now, in terms of that cost, you would probably only be looking at, say, perhaps hotel accommodation, all right, or some form of accommodation. Now, that variety, we have a lot of variety here. So families can get, for a family of 4, say, for example, a decent hotel for anywhere between 200 to 300 odd ringgit a night. And we're talking about hotels that are fairly comfortable. Of course, there are lower options as well. Now, in terms of expenses for traveling, if the family doesn't want to drive, there are other alternatives. So if you're on the west coast of Malaysia, you have the KTM service. Now I've taken the ETS all the way up north. It's extremely comfortable, very, very pleasant. You know, the kids don't get strapped down to a car seat. All right, it's very comfortable. Everybody has a good time. It's very smooth, and the cost is also very, very manageable. We are finding that a lot of families are taking their kids back to the big outdoors, back to nature, you know, back to pristine beaches, you know. And because Sabah and Sarawak are not overcrowded, it's very relaxed. You get a great holiday mood when you take a flight over. The minute you step off the plane, you feel like you're on holiday already.
So when searching for a travel package online, what should you know? What are the hidden costs involved?
For air travel, or for any sort of travel, especially air, you will be looking at different charges depending on which airports or which destinations you go to. Okay, so for example, in Malaysia, the passenger service charge is already included in the price of your ticket, right? And next year, depending on what the government sees fit, or how they see fit to implement this, we will have the departure levy, right? In ASEAN it's 20 ringgit, and going further afield it's 40 ringgit for anybody leaving the country. Okay. On top of that, if you're looking at hotels, depending on where you go, say in Malaysia, for example, in some states, like in Penang, you have a heritage fee. Okay, now that fee goes back to improving tourism in the state, but it's something that travelers should be aware of when they book a hotel room, because at the checkout, all right, the hotel will say, okay guys, you owe us 3 ringgit or 6 ringgit or whatever it may be for your length of stay.
So what are the top travel destinations for Malaysian families?
We will see that in September, most Malaysians are traveling closer to home. All right, and ASEAN destinations, especially towards the end of the year, because they're so close by, all right, and they are cheaper to go to, would be more popular than, say, people who have bought packages earlier in the year, which is more long haul.
Nigel adds that because of the weak ringgit, Malaysians are also taking shorter trips overseas. Instead of the typical 2 weeks, they're now traveling for about only 1 week.
If you're flying with small children for the first time, it can be a nerve-wracking experience. Should you bring the stroller or should you not? How will you secure your baby in the seat? And does your baby have any luggage allowance? Well, after the break, we pose these questions to a local airline. In the meantime, don't forget to find us on Facebook and YouTube. We have more personal finance tips for you there. Welcome back to Ringgit Sense. In this episode, we're sharing with you some travel tips. Now, parents who are traveling with children for the first time may have many questions. Do children under 2 years old need their own seat? And is there luggage allowance for them? Well, we met with AirAsia to ask them travel tips for families who may be flying with them.
We met with Catherine Goh, the group head of Regional In-Flight Ancillary for AirAsia at their headquarters. According to her, parents do not need to buy a seat for infants under 2 years old, so they can sit on their parents' lap. However, for children over 2 years old, a seat purchase is required.
Guests traveling with an infant or children below 2 years old, she or he must be securely restrained by an infant seat belt. And then if she or he is above 2 years old, they must be occupied a seat. So we provide infant seat belt on board. However, the airline doesn't provide a child restraint device. We'll try our best to accommodate guests to be seated together with the children upon availability. However, we do also need to accommodate other guests as well. Hence, it's always good to pre-book your seats in advance to secure the seats together with you and your children. There is no baggage allowance for infant, but you can carry your baby stroller as free of charge as a checked baggage. And then the baby strollers can be used until the boarding gate, until it's checked into a aircraft hold. And depending on the arrival airport, the baby strollers can be collected in front of the aircraft door, or at the baggage carousels, or at the bottom of the steps.
So it's advisable for parents to buy extra baggage allowance for yourself when you travel so that you can pack your infant's clothes into your luggage. As for your carry-on luggage, you can bring your infant's essentials, such as a baby drinking bottle. If it's breast milk, juices, or hot water, the quantity has to be less than 100 milliliters.
If you're traveling with an infant, it's best for you to bring your own infant food and also the food supplies such as the hot water to be stored in a thermal flask and carry with you. But however, we don't advise you to keep the thermal flask at the cabin compartment, but you can secure it at the seat pockets or underneath the seats in front of you. If you run out of hot water, you can always request for top-up from the cabin crew. Besides that, we also do have kids' meal for pre-book online and purchase on board.
If you're going to be traveling, don't forget to buy travel insurance. If you do fall sick or have an accident overseas, your medical insurance most likely will not be able to cover you. We asked Lucas Oy, the Director of Insurance at Ringgit Plus, about the difference between travel insurance and your medical or life insurance.
Typically, travel insurance is a bit more simpler. It requires very few questions. It's also able to be bought with your travel provider, whether it's your airline or your hotel provider. It's really simple. It's a few questions. They need to just know who's traveling, how long you're traveling for, and how many people, whether or not you want to go to a domestic travel or a international travel. These are the sort of questions that you ask. For medical insurance, it's more related to medical treatment if you fall sick in your home country. And for life insurance, it's more to give if an unforeseen circumstance where you pass away, your beneficiary will receive a lump sum payment into their account. The most important thing, though, is that travel insurance only covers you for when you travel abroad. And there are certain clauses that defines how long you can be abroad for this coverage to protect you. The reason why you need travel insurance is to cover for the times where unforeseen circumstances happen to you while you're traveling, either for business or for personal vacation. Things like if you unfortunate instance where you need to be hospitalized or get sick, if you maybe lose your passport, I'm sure people do that. If you miss your flight or lose your baggage, typically travel insurance covers these things and compensates you for these unforeseen circumstances. So it's really important to have travel insurance when you travel.
Before you fly off, make sure you print a copy of the policy of your travel insurance and bring it with you. If you buy it online, they will usually email it to you. But when there is an emergency overseas, you might not have access to the internet.
If you need medical treatment, what would happen is that if you're covered under the plan for your unforeseen circumstance, it will be covered for you initially. The plan will cover you. Well, basically, you just show your travel policy, and the hospital will have a third-party administrator to actually call and confirm that you have a coverage for this plan. So you don't actually need to do anything when you just show the policy document.
Another thing to consider is medical evacuation coverage. If you get into a serious accident and need to return to Malaysia for further treatment, the medical evacuation coverage will pay for this.
For smaller inconvenient items like lost baggage or you missed your flight or there's a flight delay, typically what you do is when you return from your trip, you just need to submit a very simple claim, usually filling out a very simple form and either emailing it or giving a call to the insurer to make the claim. You probably just need to provide things like the date of your travel, the flight number, and proof of the fact that you actually did go on your travel plan. and manage to prove that you were actually inconvenienced by it. Yeah.
What about the cost for travel insurance? What's the price range we should be looking at?
The price range really depends. It really depends on the length of travel. It really depends on how many people you're going to be covered under the plan, and also where you go. Let me give you an example. So for a single person traveling to Singapore for a weekend, may cost between 20 to 50 ringgit for one trip. For a family of 4 going to the same trip, it may cost between 80 to 120 ringgit. One advice I could give is, if you have a family, try to buy a family plan to cover all members of your family at once, rather than buy single individual plans for each family member. You will actually save money this way.
Lucas showed us how travelers can actually compare and buy insurance policies on the ringgitplus.com website. The entire transaction can be completed from a mobile device, and the process only takes a few minutes to complete. For frequent travelers, look for an annual plan that will cover unlimited trips domestically and overseas. It's cheaper than buying individual plans. So if you know you have 2 or 3 family holidays coming up that you've already bought at a travel fair, this will save you money.
So when shopping for your travel insurance, think about what your activities will be while you're on holiday. Keep in mind that the travel insurance does not necessarily cover all the activities that you're going to do.
If you are traveling and you want to do high-risk activities like bungee jumping or skydiving, these activities typically are not covered by your travel insurance. If you maybe have pre-existing medical illnesses, you may not be covered as well. Or if maybe certain things like natural disasters or things like earthquakes, for example, you may not be covered. Some insurers may offer you this coverage for an additional fee, so do check your terms and conditions and your fine print before buying. But for a very comprehensive list of details of travel plans, you can go to Ringgit Plus and compare them there.
Remember to read your policies carefully, especially on the countries that are covered by your policy. Not all insurance companies have the same coverage.
We're going for another break, and we'll be back sharing more travel tips with you after this. In the meantime, don't forget to find us on Facebook and YouTube, where we have other money-saving tips for you. Back after this. Welcome back. If you just joined us on Ringgit Cents Plus, we're talking about travel tips for families. Now, you might have heard of travel scams where unlucky families have been left stranded at the hotel or airport, and the so-called travel agent is nowhere to be found. So how do you spot a scammer? Well, we asked the Malaysian Association for Tour and Travel Agents, and these are some of their top tips. Let's watch.
Number 1, be very wary of people selling you tour packages online, especially through social media sites, all right, or through direct messaging, because very often these salesmen, like for better, or these scammers, will not have much details for you to go on, right? They won't tell you where their office is based. Right? Many will just tell you that they are agents of an agent or agents of an operator, right? And they will refuse more often than not to meet you face to face. Okay. Now, number 2, one of the best ways to tell whether this is a scam is if the deal sounds too good to be true. Okay, now we've all seen messages where it's been advertised, go on, you know, a 5-day, 4-night trip, for example, to Japan for only 1,200 ringgit, flights inclusive. Now that doesn't make sense because a flight to Japan already costs almost that much, right? And Japan's an expensive country. Another example would be, say, even locally, all right? A trip to a particular resort, say on Redang Island, you know, inclusive of flights to a particular city, you know, for only 500 ringgit, okay? It sounds great, but it sounds too good to be true, okay? So one way to look at it is to look at the value of the package. And if you do your own calculation, and look, you've got Google, you've got so many resources online, just Google the different parts of the package that they're offering and see what other promotions are running. Straight up, if you compare it to a legitimate tour operator, okay, or if you go directly to the hotel website or the airline websites and you put 2 and 2 together, calculate the costs you would if you were traveling alone. And if the difference is too big, then it's suspect.
You may think that if you book everything on your own separately, that you're saving more than what the travel agent can offer in a travel package. However, Nigel says this isn't so.
Well, for those of you thinking of going on a holiday together with your family, here are a few tips for you. If you're traveling together with small children, you may be thinking about how you guys are going to sleep at night. Well, there's one option for you. You can actually ask the hotel to put the beds together so that you can sleep together as a family. Or another option is for you to get an extra bed, which will cost you about an additional 100 ringgit for each bed. Also, if you're traveling as a bigger family unit, maybe you have your parents with you, your in-laws, you're going to need a bigger space. So another option for you is to get a connecting room like this one. Now, if you know which hotel you want to stay at, it's actually better to book your room through the hotel's website itself rather than travel websites. Now, the prices are almost the same, but you can actually get more benefits if you book directly through the hotel's website. Now, here's why. You can actually get a chance to choose the type of room that you want. You can customize it. You can actually choose the view that you want. And also, some hotels, like this one, offer you a chance to upgrade your room.
Food is also a major cost factor when you're on a holiday. If you're going to a resort, food will cost more. However, hotels that are in shopping malls, like this one, has more options for fussy small eaters.
So what if you're traveling with children aged 6 years and below who might be a little too young for other activities? Well, find yourself a hotel that has a playland like this one. Now this space is called Kiddies Land and it costs hotel guests about 15 ringgit per entry. So the parents can come together with the younger kids and spend a few hours here while the bigger kids can actually take part in other activities that are available nearby. So if you're traveling with small children, it's best for you to think of a trip where there are activities for the children to participate in. For example, this hotel actually has an ice skating ring suitable for children from 5 years and above. So the child can actually use the skating ring the whole day. And another tip for you is to have one parent be with the child for half the day, and then maybe the other parent can go to the spa or shop the whole day, and then for the second half of the day you can actually switch and maybe the mother will be with the child this time and then the dad can go and shop and enjoy the spa and enjoy all the other activities that you want to enjoy in during the holiday. We hope the travel tips shared today will be useful to you. Now, if you want to share it with your friends, go to our Facebook page or find us on YouTube. Also, if you find that your finances are out of control and need help with your monthly budget, you can also contact us on Facebook as well. We will set up a meeting with a licensed financial planner for you, so do contact us if you need any help. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Remember to invest and save wisely, and we'll see you again next week.